Hey everyone, this is Matt at impress.org, and I wanted to talk a little bit today about Gutenberg and where it's heading, and specifically how we're not really going to call it Gutenberg anymore. It's taking over pretty much everything, and that's the whole intention and the whole momentum. So, in this quick video, we're going to talk a little bit about the visual updates that are coming to Gutenberg that I think are really great, and distraction-free mode, because that's gotten quite a bit of interesting advertising or interesting press recently, and also basically the full site editing that's supposed to be coming soon, because all of these things are available for you to see today. It's via GitHub primarily, and I took a look and I have some first impressions and I want to share them with you. So first things first, let's take a look at some of those visual updates. So here we are in like today mode. This is today. You can enable the top bar. This is Gutenberg. It looks just like it always does, what you're familiar with. Here's full screen mode, which has always been there from the beginning. And it does look very, very clean, honestly. We can experiment with adding blocks. You could see all the styles here, columns and whatnot. It looks okay. It looks fine. I will say it doesn't look excellent, honestly. But you can select things and add images, no problem. It all comes together. It's in there. You can see what's going on. We come up to also the cover image. This one actually highlights a lot of the upcoming things that are happening in Gutenberg that I like. You can add blocks within this block, which is always an exciting feature, is blocks within blocks. Even adding columns within the cover image itself. And these look okay. Honestly, they could look a lot better. And you can see our color options for the cover image is relatively limited overall. It's really just talking about the overlay that would overlay an image behind it if you like. But that's essentially it. Adding new blocks into these areas is a little challenging. Finding exactly how to delete the blocks and things like that right here can also be a little bit challenging, but they're all in the top bar because I enabled the top bar here. So remove block. It's all really about your preference, honestly, how you want to manage and deal with your content here. But it's all working, and I think it works fine. But the way that in which things work in Gutenberg in the upcoming features, upcoming releases are actually, I think, a pretty significant improvement. They look nicer, they look better. So let's take a look at that right now too. All right, I'll stay here in the same kind of hello world area. I can enable the top bar again, and honestly, I'm going to enable full screen mode again. And you can notice right away this upper area is a little bit different. So that allows you to be able to get back to your menu easily. You'll notice the block patterns, which is another big one that I'm not going to cover today, but that's coming as well. When you click into a block, notice that you don't get an outline anymore. I actually really like that. Adding blocks like the column again is relatively straightforward, but when they're actually added into the editor now, it's much more clean. And you can see the add block icon is a lot more clean as well. When you click into new blocks, you can see how it highlights very subtly. Now, here's that cover image that I was talking about. When you go to select your colors, it's very, very similar, but it just is a lot cleaner, tighter design overall. You have the ability, of course, because that top bar is enabled, those things are up above. So we can still continue to do those things just fine. And it looks fine and good. And we can add those columns in here. Now, this case, I think the columns look a lot tighter. And when they're added, this looks a lot cleaner. This is a much more intuitive interface than what we're used to before. Now, this time, let's take a look at some of the exciting things happening with colors specifically. I love in here, I can choose a gradient now. There's a whole gradient API that's being added, and it's really powerful. You could see all these different nice gradients that are defaults that you can have here, and they all have their own breakpoints that you can customize. So add your own in there with, I believe it's a double click. Yep. And then customize that, and you'll see those changes made live. So you can see your gradient getting worse at the moment, the way I did it. So we can remove that, no problem. Everything works really, really seamlessly and looks really nice. The gradient API, I think, is a great improvement here. So things of that nature, making everything look more intuitive and more obvious, being able to see where the block icon is a lot more obviously with stronger contrast for accessibility, and having it a little bit off to the side instead of right in the dead center. I think those are all serious improvements that folks will like and enjoy. Also, when it comes to full screen mode, once I started playing with it, I really did prefer it. It is something that I think is an improvement for the whole experience. And I think another reason why folks are going to want to use full screen mode more and more is specifically because of the full site editing. Once you start getting into full site editing, which is not today, but it's coming up, and we'll look at it really briefly, you'll see that, I mean, essentially you're going to want that whole full screen experience, and you do want it to be clutter-free as possible. I think that is one reason why making distraction-free mode essentially the default is a probably best idea for going forward. So now keep in mind with full site editing, you can access it today in the article that this video is embedded in. You can see how to access it and how to get it. There are several kind of small hoops you got to jump through to make it work. But essentially it's all there, and it's really experimental. It's really, 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 really beta. They call it experimental even. So we're just going to take a quick brief look at it right here. You can see here, this feels very much like Gutenberg. And what you do is you choose which template that you want to customize. Now, the theme that I have installed right now is not updated correctly for this kind of thing, and so you're not seeing a whole lot of action here. But essentially, when you go and make edits to the template, you'll see those edits live on the site. But you can also tell here there's some quirkiness with the Gutenberg editor that it's using even. I'm not sure exactly how that's happening, but it seems like it's not exactly the same as the default editor. This is the new look in the upcoming Gutenberg, with these much more hard lines around, but this is of course with the toolbar not being pinned at the top. This is where it's right on the block that you're working on. But here basically you're going to be editing templates, and you can edit those templates here, and then it affects the whole site. And there's lots of ways you could do that based on your theme as well, and you can add new template parts as well. And it works basically just like the Gutenberg editor, where you're adding blocks in columns and things like that. And you have this nice inspector over here. A lot of the tools that we're comfortable with already with Gutenberg are not over here yet, but that's exactly where I think a lot of this development is still going to need to go before we see full site editing coming full-fledged into WordPress core. So that's my main ideas. Main first impressions is that the improvements that are coming to Gutenberg immediately, I think, are much easier on the eye and make things a lot more intuitive. I think the gradient API is gorgeous and really helpful. That'll definitely add a lot of possibilities to your designs that I think a lot of plugin authors will want to leverage. Theme authors will want to hook into as well. And the full site building experience needs a lot of work, but that's because it's experimental already, so that's to be expected. But you could see why the full site editing feature is something that is kind of pushing that full screen mode, distraction-free mode, to be the default as well. So that's what I got today. Thanks a bunch. Bye.